Welcome to Tea with Tanya. I'm your host, Tanya Ambrose, an average millennial navigating life as a maternal health professional, nonprofit founder, and grad student. Join me in the tea tasting room where we spill the tea on finding balance and promoting positive living while doing it all. Hey friend, how are you doing? What go on? Everything blessed, everything cool, everything Irie? Hey friend, welcome back to another episode of Tea with Tanya. I am happy to be back here in the tea tasting room with you. I hope you have done something within the last week or the last few days that's affirming to you, that's going to uplift your spirit, that's going to make you feel good about yourself. I know, we're living in a crazy world right now, so I always encourage you to do something for yourself. Do more for yourself, okay? But I am happy to be back here in the tea tasting room. It's always a pleasure. I am excited to record this episode. Let me just put this disclaimer out right now. If you happen to hear my voice crack while recording this episode, that's not like your gut is very emotional. So I'm trying to suppress the emotions that I have while recording this episode. But if it comes out, then you know what? It is what it is. That's what we do here in the tea tasting room. We're going to keep it honest. We're going to keep it raw. We're going to be ourselves, okay? So today's episode, I am inviting you, into, I want to say the depths of my soul, but I don't think we're going that deep, but I want to explore the transformative power of life's challenges and the path forward towards empowerment and authenticity. Now, I just said that word without stuttering, so I'm going to say it again because I'm proud of myself. As we explore the transformative power of life's challenges and the path forward towards empowerment and authenticity. But before we continue into today's episode, I want to share the affirmation that I've been repeating to myself within the last few days, and just when I'm thinking and reflecting on my life where I was, let's say 5, 6, maybe 8 years ago to where I am now. I think that there's going to be one of the affirmations that I repeat daily and probably multiple times a day, because there's a meditation that I do every morning. I forgot the name of it. I think it's the Insight Timer app. And on that app, I've been listening to that particular affirmation or doing that particular meditation because it's been speaking to me, and I've been doing this for almost literally 6 months, which is how ironic. And it's all about respecting yourself. We're living in strange times. We often find ourselves so busy that we forget to even nurture our being. So, this meditation that I do in the morning is called Respect Yourself. And it's all about learning to respect yourself and love ourselves. So when we begin to respect ourselves, the way we perceive ourselves and the world changes. Our confidence is going to rise and everything is going to become more and more clear. So I'll put the link to this particular meditation. It's very short. It's not a long one, but it's just so powerful to me because, again, we are navigating this crazy world. And we're all going through some sort of change or some sort of transformation that, one, we may not understand. Or if you're like me, you're probably fighting against that transformation because it's not what you wanted or want to accept in this present moment. But nevertheless, it's a must. So as we get into the episodes, I'm going to share the affirmation. And that's going to be, I am making a new decision for my future, despite the decisions I made in my past. So I'm going to say it again. I am making a new decision for my future, despite the decisions I made in my past. So if you've been following me on this podcast for a while, then you probably know how I gave birth to this podcast. So now if you are new here or you just jumped in the middle of this podcast show where, you probably didn't get to hear that episode, I'm just going to give you a brief synopsis of how Tea with Tanya came about. So most of you should know, you should have heard from the intro that I am a public health professional and I work in maternal, child, and reproductive health. Anyway, I graduated from Georgia State University with my bachelor's of science in public health in 2020. And when I'm saying graduated, I'm like putting out air quotes because, as we know, 2020 was the year where all of our lives changed completely, all of us. And I didn't get the opportunity to hear my name and walk across the stage and hearing Tanya Ambrose, magna cum laude. But, I wanted to hear that. But of course, we had a virtual graduation. It didn't give me the same feeling that I wanted. But at the same time, I remember feeling grateful and looking back at my past from having to pivot in my life, from going to school, deciding I want to become a nurse, going to nursing school, failing out of nursing school by 0.5 points, because I'm going to always put that in my story. I don't give a damn. and having to pivot, deciding what I'm going to do, and then found public health, right? So I've had to pivot multiple times in this year life. Like I'm only 33 and I've probably done live 2-3 lives at this point in time. But with that being said, I graduated in 2020, and if you listen to this podcast, you always hear me talk about the power of social media and how it can be used for good, and it's not always negative. While I was in school getting my public health degree, I started getting, I won't say following because I don't have a lot of followers on Instagram, but I started building a community or a network of like-minded individuals, of individuals who are also on their public health journey, whether that was at the bachelor's level or the master's level. And I remember one of my public health sisters, as I call her name is Christina. She reached out to me because a group of individuals, they were high school students who were working towards, it's called the SEMI initiative, and they were high school students advocating for equity in healthcare and education. And they were hosting this seminar where they were looking for individuals who in the public health field or the medical field to give a speech to the high school students who are preparing to go to college. And she thought of me, and I always gonna have to give Christina a shout out for, I think it's Christina. See, there I go. It's Christine. I have to give her a shout out every time for even thinking of me, thinking I would be a good fit to speak to these group of high school students, these very ambitious group of high school students, and they were based out of Florida. Anyway, long story short, I had to, because I have never done anything public speaking outside of reading in church or at the time presenting in class about whatever project we had to do, but it's always with a group member, if that makes sense. So I had to do my own research here, create my speech, create my PowerPoint, and centered my presentation on something that was public health related. And I cannot remember what that topic was, but that's besides the point. But since doing that, again, being nervous to speak because one, I have an accent, two, I speak fast, and three, sometimes I stutter when I speak really, really fast. So all that nerves from having the accent, do I code switch? Because like one thing about me again, I'm going to say true to who I am. You might hear a little twang in here, but that's okay. I am Antiguan and I am speaking English. But I remember telling myself, okay, Tanya, you need to speak slowly because one, people may not understand what you're saying. But when I'm nervous, child, please, I speak faster than Usain Bolt can run. Okay. But nevertheless, I did that speech. And after that, the feedback that I got from the students, they had amazing questions. It was just a great interactive session that I had. And that gave me the public speaking bug. Now, I've been out here making content since 2016. I had my blog. I've been out here consistently blogging on these different things. And I told myself, you know what? I need to practice being in front of the camera because I'm going to be honest, we all have our little insecurities. I often joke and say that I don't have video face yet. I'm not there with my confidence, but that's besides the point. That's no more really, but I'm working on that too. But I just remember having that bug to be in front of the camera, to just spill the tea when it came to healthcare or anything public health related, to bring more awareness to public health, especially when we entered the pandemic. And that's when the public health profession came on the front line. Like we were always here. I'll tell you that much. We were always here, but we were, in the background playing, weren't getting the recognition at the time, but it took the COVID-19 pandemic for individuals to really realize the feel of what the field of public health is and what it means to be a public health professional. So I decided I was going to go on Instagram and do an Instagram live featuring my friends on Instagram, those who are doctors, public health professionals, what lawyers, influencers, whatever you were a guest on Tea with Tanya. So Tea with Tanya this is the first name as it relates to any sort of business I've had that I didn't think a million years on, or I didn't even doubt the name because one, I'm from Antigua, all about tea. Like tea is just going to be, tea is life. Of course we have some Caribbean people now who are into their coffee too, but tea is life. You have a pain in your finger, you drink some tea. You have a headache, you drink some tea. You're not feeling well, you drink some tea. And you just drink some tea the first thing in the morning so that you don't have any gas or headache. You can go about your day in peace, right? So in my mind, I was like, okay, let me share some public health tea. So I'm going to call it Tea with Tanya. First, I did not even hesitate on that name. And at that time, it was about just spilling the tea on public health. And I had different guests on. And that's what birthed the Tea with Tanya podcast. That confidence that I gained just from going live every Monday night. I never forgot. I think it was every Monday night. I started every other Monday. And then everyone kept saying, you need to go every week, you need to go every week. And I think I changed it from a Monday to a Tuesday. Hence the reason why the podcast to this day now is even released on a Tuesday. And I remember people in the comments in the live would often say, oh, this should be a podcast. I'm like, that's essentially was the end goal, because one, at the time, I wasn't confident enough to even be in front of a camera on YouTube, to even have a YouTube channel. I had 2 friends who were starting their YouTube. That's good for them. I'm going to support them. And they were also on the Tea with Tanya Live, Instagram Live series. But nevertheless, that was my journey into podcasting. And that's where the Tea with Tanya podcast comes in to play. Now, fast forward, because the goal again at the Tea with Tanya was to promote positive living, of course. That has always been one of the cores, but to have conversations about public health. And as I started the podcast, I was more on my self-health or wellness journey, but then I fell off, and then the podcast got a new name, still Tea with Tanya, but it's now called Tea with Tanya, Conversations about Maternal Health, Self-Development, Health, and Wellness. Well, you're going to hear it first, but I don't know if I'm going to tell you yet. Let me get into the episode, and then we're going to talk about it. You understand what I'm saying? But life as we know it. I'm gonna just give that little cliffhanger here. So you just hold on to the end of the episode, and you're gonna hear what I'm talking about, because we're getting a little upgrade in the tea tasting room, okay? But life as we know it, it comes with a lot of joy, sorrow, triumph, and tribulation. And it's usually a journey that to me is marked by moments of growth and evolution. And to be honest, friend, lately I have found myself reflecting a lot, like a lot. I'm always a very reflective person, but I found myself reflecting a lot on the intricate patterns within my own life. I'm recognizing like the threads of change that have just woven their way through the fabric of my existence at this point in time. You guys already know, that I am a founder of a nonprofit organization called Scrub Life Cares. I'm the host of this podcast. I'm a birth and postpartum doula. I'm a certified lactation counselor. I work full time, and I'm also a grad student. And sometimes, to be honest, I can get very, very lost in my identity, just being founder, podcast host, this, that, and the third. And then sometimes, you may end up losing who you are. But I want to talk about navigating my life, and even you navigating life, when it comes to finding that balance between work, school, running a nonprofit, and hosting this podcast. And that journey has not been without any challenges. And of course, we have some triumphs as well. But as I continue to grow, as I continue to learn more, because one thing about me, I consider myself a forever student, and that means a student when I'm actually in school, because I think I'm going to be in school at this point for the rest of my life, because I just love to learn, but also a student of life, a student of, when it comes to change. So with all this, doing all these different things and trying to find a balance to do it all, I had to really sit and confront my limitations. I had to redefine my priorities, and I had to really and truly just embrace the natural fluidity of life and how much it changes. I often say that for me, I've come across many stumbling blocks. I've fallen many times. I've gotten up and I've fallen again. And what I can say is that I am a very, very, very resilient person. Like, one of my mantras in this here life is perseverance is key. Because one thing about me, I'm a perseverer. You can knock me down 15 times, I'm gonna get up 20. But I will say, I've learned to turn my stumbling blocks into stepping stones. And when I think back about where I was in 2015, when I essentially failed out of nursing school and my world came to an end, I was depressed, I was sad. It was the worst thing ever. And I just remember, thinking about, again, this is just one stop on my way to my destination. I'm not gonna let this stop me from accomplishing the goals that I set out for myself. But with that challenge, I had to pivot, and I had to pivot real hard. I didn't know, again, back in 2015, how old was I? 25, thinking I was grown. Child, please. I wish I was, but no, I was only 25. So when I think back to where 25-year-old Tanya was and to where 33-year-old Tanya is right now, it seems like they're two different lives. It really does feel like they're two different lives for me, because the Tanya back then and the Tanya now is like the decisions that I made then is what now has me living at the level that I am now at 33. Sometimes it's so easy for us to have regrets or think about the decisions that we made in the past. And if you're like me, I was living in regret for a very, very long time. And that regret had like a dark cloud over me. It was stressing me. It was weighing me down. And then, to be honest, my grandmother, she died almost 7 years now, I think. And every day, literally every single day, I think about her because, anyway, so my grandmother, she's been dead. She's been dead for 7 years now. And she was very instrumental in raising me and my sisters. And I guess she saw that, her grandchild was living with this weight on her shoulder because, she didn't think she was living up to maybe her parents' expectations or the expectations of the world. And honestly, she came to me one night in my dream. And this may sound eerie, but she came to me one night in my dream and we were having a conversation. She came in my dream as clear as day. And she was talking to me, and I just remember vividly what I'll share is that she told me that I needed to forgive some people. She told me to forgive them and to let go of what the hurt that they've brought into my life. And then I think I kind of told you guys this story when she told me to go drink the dandelion tea and everything. But that time when she came to me in a dream and she just said the words, let go. Like I was on my knees praying and she just came and she put her arms around me and she said, Tanya, just let go. And I promise you, this literally happened in 2022. So I'm talking about having to pivot my life from 2015 and in 2022, because I've seen her in my dreams many times and whatnot, but in 2022, when I went to another transitional period of my life, my grandmother came to me in that dream and told me that I needed to forgive myself, I needed to forgive people who hurt me, and I needed to let go so that I can flourish. And believe me, friend, from the life that I've been living since 2022 to now, again, that to see that transformation or see that growth from where I was there, working on overcoming people pleasing or working on trusting myself more, trusting my intuition more. It's been since then. So, listen to your intuition, guys. But amidst the chaos and even the storm that I've endured in this short life that I've lived so far, I was able to, and I continue to discover a sense of purpose, and that purpose in recent times over the last 2 years, that was rooted in self-love. It's rooted in health and wellness. It's really a journey of transformation. It's a journey towards becoming my most authentic version of myself. So if you're listening to this episode and you may be going through whatever trials and tribulations, or if you were like me where you became their people pleaser, or if you were like me where you've had people take your love for granted, or you have people take your friendship for granted, or you have people just take you as a person for granted, take some time to do some self-reflection. Because honestly, I kind of sit here and tell you what worked for me is going to work for you. You know what I mean? But take some time to really reflect and think about the chaos, the storm. Think about the stumbling blocks that you face day in, day out. Even if you're a mom who may have children who are being bullied in school, or if you're a mom who may have a child that's on the autism spectrum, so you're having to navigate this world as a mom, you're having to deal with postpartum, or you're having to deal with individuals not knowing how to potentially or accept your child or children for being as unique as they are. Think about the ways in which you can just reflect. And during that reflection, that deep reflection, you should come out on the other side with a sense of purpose. Like I said, for me, that was my dream with my grandmother. I started my nonprofit in 2020, but even then I still had my doubts. I still had my reservations, but now I am ready to essentially walk into my purpose. Like I'm living my purpose right now. And like I said, that is rooted in self-love, health, and wellness. And it's a journey of transformation. It's a journey towards becoming your most authentic version of yourself. And then there's a matter of the heart. That could be healing from a heartbreak. And let me tell you, that's a process. That's a sacred journey of, again, self-discovery and reclaiming yourself. It's about honoring the wounds of our past while bravely stepping into the light of a new dawn. For me, again, we talk about heartbreak. That could be from an intimate relationship. It could be from friendship, whatever it is, whatever heartbreak. It could be from grieving the loss of a family member. Sometimes I think in society, we think we need to get over something as fast as we do. That's not true. Sometimes I just think that we need to just really and truly sit in our feelings. Like for me, if I'm gonna be sad, I'm gonna be sad. Like I know I have the tools and the coping mechanisms to get out of my funk. But I think sometimes when you're dealing with a heartbreak, no matter what the cause of the heartbreak is, just take some time to sit and feel your feelings. Sometimes we often like to say, oh, everything happened for a reason. And right now, quite frankly, sometimes I don't even think there's a reason why things happen. Sometimes we want an explanation, like myself, but sometimes we're just not given an explanation. We're not just given a reason as to why something happened in our life. So definitely you just want to sit in that feeling, feel it. And for me, I always say, push through or try to get over something, sit in that feeling and work through your feeling, work through your hurt, work through your grief so that you can get to your next step. So you can turn those stumbling blocks into stepping stones. And I know I'm running my mouth saying all these different things, but for me, I've been on a journey over the last 2 years of self-love, health and wellness. If you listen to the podcast over the last year, I've been on my health and wellness journey, being very intentional about that. But again, through being in therapy, of course, I am learning the coping mechanisms. I'm relearning how to love myself. I'm relearning how to understand myself. Because one thing I realized the other day that I do not completely understand myself. So it's very hard for me, or it's unfair for me to expect someone else to understand me when I myself don't even understand me. You know what I mean? So we're ever evolving. So we definitely have to ensure that we are sitting in whatever feelings we're feeling, that we're also working and pushing through working through that grief that we may feel until we come out on the other side. And again, that's no time frame. It's not going to take a month, a week, a year. Sometimes, again, grief can be long, right? There's no time for you to grieve. My grandmother died 7 years ago. Another day, I am still grieving her death. So definitely, there's no rush. Doesn't matter how your heart may feel, how you may feel. Just again, think about where you want to be. Again, nothing in this life happens before its time. Perseverance is going to be key. Which brings me, I just wanted to share that part. Which brings me to a pivotal moment in the evolution of this podcast. But the next time you listen to this podcast, or 2 episodes from now, you're going to see a change with Tea with Tanya. Right now, it's Tea with Tanya. It's conversations about maternal health, self-development, health and wellness. And after many thoughts and just dreams, because one thing about me, if something comes to me in a dream, it has to happen. I have to work hard to make it happen. Like, I'm just that girl. If I have a dream and I feel that dream in my soul, like whatever was happening in that dream, I have to go out and make it happen. My nonprofit, that was a thought at one point, and then it became a dream where I saw where it was going to be 10 years from now at the time when I had the dream. And we're in year 3, almost approaching year 4 of having Scrub Life Cares. And I'm not even touching. I'm at the tip of that iceberg when it comes to what I saw in that dream. So definitely, if something comes in my dream, it's going to happen. So one day I was reflecting, and I actually had a conversation with someone in my Instagram DMs, and she sent back home, and we're talking about Tea with Tanya, and she was telling me, she had something that was called, I think it was Tea with Tammy or Tammy Tea, something. But either way, when she said that, I was like, I had that in a dream, but I kept holding on to the acronym that I had because I'm like, at this point, it wasn't time. But anyway, friend, I had this dream. And like I said, the podcast is called Tea with Tanya, conversations about maternal health, self-development, maternal health and wellness. And the next couple of weeks, you're going to be seeing a transformation on the podcast. I don't know if I'm ready to share that name yet, but you're going to see a change in the name of the podcast. It's still Tea with Tanya. We're still going to be meeting in the tea tasting room, but I'm going to leave that for your imagination. And over the next 2 weeks, you're going to see that roll out. You're going to see what I'm talking about, what I'm cooking, what I'm getting ready to birth again, the rebirth of Tea with Tanya podcast. But you also may be asking, why the change? Because for me, I believe in the power of transformation. I believe in the infinite potential that lies within each and every one of us. And that is to rise above the adversity that we may face. That is to embrace our true essence. And as I continue to navigate this life, trying to balance love, trying to balance friendship, trying to balance being a child, a sibling, an older sister, working on growing my nonprofit, working on growing this podcast, as I continue, it's like I feel like I'm I am currently in a transformational phase of my life right now. And the beginning of the year, when I rang in that new year in a different country, and the feeling that I had in my gut telling me that I need to approach everything in this world or in this life with intention. Sometimes, I'm finding that when I don't listen to my gut, shit hits the fan. I'm just keeping it real. When I don't listen to my intuition, I always end up either getting burned or something always goes the wrong way. So this is just telling you, what? If you're in a transitional or transformational phase of your life, you definitely want to continue to believe in your infinite potential. Believe in your potential. Don't let anyone stop you from achieving the things that you want to achieve. It doesn't even matter what it is. you definitely want to tap into your potential. So as I go, like I said, I'm going to leave you a little cliffhanger and then you can tell me what you think it's going to be. But this podcast, honestly, is no longer going to be just about conversations about maternal health, self-development. It's about catalyzing change. It's about empowering growth, and it's going to be about inspiring authenticity. Because too many times I've had people question how real I am, because of my kindness. And I'm sick and tired of that, sometimes because we're not used to people being genuinely kind to us. So I'm going to make sure I want the feel of this podcast to be about, I'm going to be catalyzing change, empowering growth, inspiring us to all be authentic. It's about embarking on a journey of self-discovery together, you and me here in the tea tasting room. And it's about to just up and, as we like to say, up, up, up. It's really just about me tapping into my true self, not that I wasn't before, but I'm always evolving. You're always evolving. So as I continue to evolve, I can't evolve and then stay the same. You can't evolve and stay the same. So I definitely just wanted to share that with you guys before we wrap this season up. I have one more episode that you guys are gonna absolutely love, and it's gonna be ending on a high. Actually, it might be 2 episodes. It's gonna be ending on a high note as we get ready to go into the new season as well. So I want to give you a cheers if you have your teacup or whatever you want to drink today in the tea tasting room. But here's to us transforming. Here's to transformation, my dear friend. Here's to us embracing the ebbs and flow of life's currents, to honoring the wisdom of our past, because whatever decisions we made in the past is why we are who we are today. It made us stronger. It made us learn about our purpose, and it made us also know what we're willing to accept and what we're not willing to accept. So let's just continue to step out in this world, walking in our purpose. Again, I want to thank you for joining me here in the tea tasting room. Please do something for yourself within this week, because I want to hear what you did for yourself as it relates to self-care within the past week. And remember, the affirmation is, I am making new decisions for my future despite the decisions I made in the past. Like, your past is not going to define you. Your past is going to continue to mold who you are presently and mold who you become in the future as well. Never forget that. I love you for listening, and I'll see you in the tea tasting room next week. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Tea with Tanya. If you like this episode, be sure to share it with a friend. Don't forget to follow on Instagram at Tea with Tanya Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the weekly Tea Talk newsletter. And of course, rate on Apple or Spotify and subscribe wherever you listen. See you next time. I love you for listening.